Hello, this is Prisma Lopez-Marin here one Monday with the Mayor with Mayor Terry Seitz.
Hi Prisma, good day.
Always a good day and good to see you, Mayor.
Thank you, good to see you too. I saw you last week at the State of the City address among other things, and it's good to have the coverage. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, it's a good presentation that you gave, and definitely a lot of good things that you presented about the city and the departments that fall under it.
I'll give credit to the Chamber of Commerce. I like the event. For people who don't know, the Chamber of Commerce in Jasper every year, about the last 3 years now, has sponsored they call the State of. And while I'm required to give a formal report to the council at Jasper, it's normally known as the State of the City. And so I have my first official presentation of that, but Chamber of Commerce includes reports from the County Council, the County Commission, as well as the Greater Jasper Consolidated Schools. So it's all together, all in one, and it's a really good snapshot of where we are as a community, and it's good to see so many people in attendance.
There were a lot of people in attendance, and in speaking of the city address, you also spoke about certain departments that have accomplished a lot, and today we're going to talk about one of those departments.
We are. This actually will be joining us in just a moment. Will be Bud Hauersperger, who's the general manager of our utilities. So Bud's really position is the leader of the entire utility operation, which for Jasper is a very significant set of assets, and he'll share more about that, I'm sure. He reports actually to his own board, the Utility Service Board, as well as that board falls under the Jasper Council. Bud has probably far too many bosses in his life, but he's handled that very well. He's also spearheaded a lot of things in regards to infrastructure that maybe would not be considered one of our 4 utilities, a technology driver, things related to fiber and telecommunications. So he does wear a lot of hats in addition to having a lot of bosses, but he's, again, a person that will be able to explain just how valuable the utilities are to the citizens of Jasper.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The department as well for joining us today.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor, again, and we look forward to speaking with Bud. Hello, and we're back here on Monday with the Mayor with the Department of Utilities here with Bud.
Hi.
Can you tell us Bud Hauersperger?
Bud Hauersperger. Yeah, I'm General Manager Utilities. Jasper is kind of unique in that we have our own 4 of our own utilities. Yeah. Not many cities in the state have that. Especially, we do electric distribution. We have water, sewers, wastewater, and we also have gas, which is kind of probably one of the most unique ones. There's probably only a handful of cities that have their own gas distribution department. So from that standpoint, I think we're very unique and very busy too. So there's a lot of things to monitor.
That's definitely what I noticed first coming in Jasper. It's a very well planned out format to where getting my utilities was the most easiest thing I had ever done, because it's all included in, as you said, it's one of the few places that does that. It's actually very convenient to have it set up that way.
Most of the city gets one bill for all those. We do have some locations on the west side where we have, actually there are some people who actually live in the city that have Ireland Water, Huntingburg Gas, Jasper Sewers, and REC Electric. So they get 4 bills even though they're in the city. And that's kind of a long story on how those areas, it's kind of like they were outside the city when some of it was developed, so they were like rural electric customers, and then as the city annexed, if they were already rural electric customers and all the infrastructure belonged to rural electric, we just let rural electric maintain them as customers, and we didn't take that over because it would have been too expensive for us to redo all that. So it's and gas and other things are similar in that fashion. But we feel like having municipal utilities is very beneficial, I think, to the citizens of Jasper, in that we're a not-for-profit, so we don't have a board of directors or stockholders that we have to collect money to make a profit to pay our stockholders off. Really, we consider our stockholders really the ratepayers and the customers and so by not having to worry about stocks and everything else, we feel like we can keep our costs at a very reasonable low rate.
And in terms of how policy plays into that, I know you're responsible for that area as well in terms of the utilities department.
Yeah, I report to the Utility Service Board, which it's 7 members, and they're appointed by, some of them are appointed by the City Council and some are appointed by the mayor, but they really represent the ratepayers, and we have a monthly meeting, and all of our rules and regulations kind of go through them. If it has anything to do with rates, though, we have it's kind of our laws or our ordinances that establish how much we charge for different utilities. And those typically have to go to the City Council for approval before we can change our rates. And we like to look at those rates every 2 to 3 years on each individual utility and have those have a rate study done. And they look at all of our expenses, our cost of fuels, cost of energy, our customers' costs, and they establish kind of what they recommend we need to do, and we project out then kind of what our plans are for the next couple years to make sure that we do collect enough money through our rates to help pay for those future projects and also cover our expenses. So, we don't have a big profit built into those rates, so we monitor those every couple years to make sure that we're charging the right amount so that we don't make a lot of money, but we don't want to lose money either. So we have to kind of do that. That's how our rates get established. And those ordinances also include just kind of connection fees and how it's connected and all of that. So there's some details in there too.
So to have like a proper balance in terms of everything that functions in there.
Right, correct.
And one of the things that the mayor brought up was that you do have a lot of hats that you work under, or a lot of people that you report to. How is that in terms of like your experience working for the city?
Well, I think it's one of the reasons I took the job, because it did give me something new every day, and a lot of variety, a lot of different things to learn. And we don't have an IT department for information technology. And we really don't have a IT staff, so a lot of that, because I'd worked for a phone company back 25 years ago for a couple years, so I kind of became the phone IT expert for some reason. So, and plus I'm an electrical engineer, so they figured you can do all this stuff. So so I kind of had to, by default, kind of pick up on some of that stuff. So, but we do have consultants that handle the nitty-gritty part of the IT world. So, but I tend to have to do a lot, get involved with that more than I probably should. But it's just part of my job.
It's good to have variety in terms of what you do each day. And in that, what would your primary responsibilities be, or what are they?
It's really to just coordinate with other departments within the city and to coordinate, kind of interface with the Utility Service Board. Before I was hired, each one of the department heads kind of reported to the Utility Service Board from each department, and my job was created because they felt like they wanted somebody to kind of oversee the whole thing. And some of the first things I did were to kind of, instead of having each guy with their own world, we said, well, let's try to, maybe we can cross over and help each other out a little bit more. And we bought some equipment that we talked about sharing, whereas each department had their own equipment and they didn't like to share it that much. So we kind of forced them to share some equipment. So I had to save costs and just make it easier to purchase things if we grouped all our purchases together and did it that way. So we try to save some efficiencies there, and I just kind of help communicate that and communicate that to the board, and then they task me with certain things to try to help save money for the ratepayers. That's really the bottom line, is to provide a good service at a good value. So that's what I'm constantly trying to achieve.
And that's what I've noticed a lot about the departments of the city, where everybody just genuinely works together, because at the end of the day, it's to help the the taxpayers and the people who they serve. And I'm sure among the work that you do, there are some challenges. Could you talk about any challenges that you do have to face, every day or throughout the month?
A lot of it is just day-to-day issues with customer complaints. We get a lot of that, and sometimes it's once you try to explain to the customer that some customers feel like, well, you guys are the big utility. You guys should pay for this for me. You should cover this.
Yes.
And then I have to explain to them. I go, well, really, we're not paying for this. It's all the customers are paying for what you think you need. So I go, if you polled all the customers in Jasper and said, hey, do you guys feel like paying this guy, for running this extra line or doing this for this guy, would they agree to that? Or would you agree that if your neighbor said, utilities, you ought to pay for this? So it's a lot of customer issues. A lot of it is to planning for the future, to try to make sure we don't get caught not having the funds available, and a lot of it we can control, and a lot of it we can't control. For instance, at the water plant, the state Department of Energy Environmental Management said, hey, you guys need to add this extra piece of quality control of the water quality, which was a UV project, which was $1.3 million. That wasn't in our sights, 2 or 3 years ago, but luckily they gave us enough time to try to plan ahead, so we tried to incorporate that. So those federal mandates or government mandates sometimes, so we're looking at one now for the wastewater plant where they want us to reduce the amount of phosphorus that that exits the plant. So we're studying that right now, but that's something we're going to have to do. We don't have any choice in that matter, and that's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars too that we'll have to do. That's kind of not in the picture. Mostly we look at growth, where, are we going to need to add capacity, and then we look at maintenance or old assets that we need to make sure we take care of. So probably that's the biggest goal of mine, is to make sure that we continue to provide a valuable and reliability is a big issue, to make sure that because people don't like it when their power's off and their water doesn't work, and if we have a boil order, that's causes some problems. But I think we've been very good, and just have lived in other communities, I think our utilities, I think, are very responsive, and we don't have a lot of outages, thank goodness, knock on wood. I think, our service has been pretty good, and we want to maintain that, keep that going.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's very important to have you here just because people do need to kind of be educated on the situation where departments such as yours do have other things like state government who bring down laws that you have to abide by, and it's not necessarily that you don't want to help the everyday resident here, but it's mainly things that are out of your control at sometimes too. So it's good for people to be informed on certain things like that. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, thank you also for joining us here on 18 WJTS for Monday with the Mayor, and also the Department of Utilities with Mr. Bud Hauersperger.